Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Full-Time MLS. My name is Randy. I'm here with my best friend, Christian, and we are here to break down everything Major League Soccer. This is our second episode. Last week, we broke down the 2026 outlook for 5 different MLS teams. Today, we are continuing that. We still have 25 teams to get through. Today, we're going to talk about Toronto FC, St. Louis City SC, New England Revolution, Houston Dynamo, and the Colorado Rapids. So before we get into all of that, I want to remind you guys, hit that like button if you're enjoying any of this video throughout your time watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as we've got so much content coming out for you guys. And follow us on all of our social media accounts, X, TikTok, Instagram, at MLS Fulltime. Christian, how are you doing today, brother? How's your week been?
I'm good. We're snowed in right now with a big snowstorm. So I guess it's a good time for us to get going and get talking about the league.
Well, that was going to be my next question is how snowed in did you get? Because literally an hour ago, I was outside. I was using my hands to dig out of the snow. And I had a couple guys who were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't have a shovel. I haven't invested in a shovel. So I had another guy come over and help me out. And bless him for doing that because I was literally just down in the snow like a dog, digging the snow behind me, trying to get my car out. So I don't know if you've been outside yet to see how snowed in you are.
I've been outside to walk the dog, but I haven't drove anywhere. So
your car's probably 9 feet under snow. Well, hopefully everyone stayed safe. We know this snowstorm affected much of the country, so hopefully no one's had any serious accidents. But thank you guys for taking your time to tune in with us and learn about some of these MLS teams ahead of the 2026 kickoff, which is under a month now, February 21st. We are quickly coming up on the start of the 2026 season. So Christian, let's waste no more time. I think it's time that we get right to talking about these teams, as we've got 5 to talk about today. Let's go ahead and get to our first one. Yes, we are here to talk about Toronto FC. I'm going to move my phone over here so it's not blocked by the microphone. 32 points last season, 6 wins, 14 losses, 14 draws. Their head coach is now Robin Fraser. Their top goal scorers were Theo Kurbianu. I probably butchered that name. I apologize. That was their top goal scorer last season with 6, which is kind of crazy to think about. We talked about DC United last week, missing the postseason for their 6th straight season. For Toronto FC, this was their 5th straight season, missing the postseason. Honestly, if you look at it for Toronto FC, before you give your first thoughts, Christian, a lot of it came down to, I feel like there were some major players who underperformed, and everybody knows who I'm talking about with Lorenzo Insigne, Federico Bernardes. Bernardes started picking it up a little bit, but I think it was still under his standards of what he can contribute as a football player. If you look at how many goals they gave up, it wasn't too bad. They had a goal differential of -7 last season, which is different from the teams we talked about last week, who they all really struggled on the defensive end. But obviously, the anchorman that they had, Sean Johnson, has departed and gone on to DC United. We'll talk about who they brought in to kind of solidify their goal. They brought in another experienced player with William Yarbrough, who we'll get to. But Christian, what do you think about Toronto FC after the 2025 season that they had? I forgot to mention they did finish 12th in the Eastern Conference, 25th overall.
Yeah, I mean, you hit a lot of my touch points, actually.
I
have, again, 5th straight season missing the playoffs. And like you said, they're not like the other teams we've talked about at this point of the defensive issues, but that is something that they may see this year, losing Sean Johnson, who was 5th in the league in saves last year. And then on top of that, I feel like they had a lot of offensive inconsistency, which is not something that they would have wanted, considering the guys that they've brought in to anchor that. They got a lot of youth up front, like DeAndre Kerr, who I think could be key for them this year. And again, it's a team that barely improved, if at all, from 2024.
Well, I think they got rid of, I hate to say it like this, but they got rid of the cancer players of the locker room. And like I said, Federico Bernardeschi is gone. Lorenzo Insigne gone. I mean, Christian, we were excited when Insigne was coming to MLS. What an absolute dud that was for Toronto.
I mean, they literally spent the money for him to sit on the bench, it seemed, in the last year and a half or so, because he just wouldn't leave. They were ready for him to go, and he didn't want to go. I think it's definitely a massive dud for them, though.
I mean,
expectations were up here, and the performance was down here.
And I think that set them back. I mean, if we let's go ahead and look at who they've brought in. They have made some really good moves, and I want to be transparent here and say that I love Toronto's roster. I love a lot of the players they have. They still have Richie Laryea, who, Christian, you've always been a fan of Richie Laryea. I love
my team, not Force.
Yeah, exactly. And when he came back, I remember us talking about it, how you were excited to see how he did on Toronto. But they've got players who have been around MLS who I've always been a fan of, like Jose Cifuentes from back when he played at LAFC. They have Derek Etienne Jr., who has kind of bounced around this league. I've always been a fan of his. Jonathan Osorio, like, this is a team. I like their players. I really do. And I think they're strengthening their roster as well, bringing in Walker Zimmerman, obviously former defensive player of the year. He has always been with Nashville and has just killed it with Nashville for these past, the past years he's been playing in MLS. And for him, yes, he's getting up there in age. He wasn't as efficient with Nashville SC the last couple of seasons, but I do think this is a good signing for Walker Zimmerman and Toronto. I think he needed a fresh start. It was time for a fresh start, and so I'm excited to see what he does in Toronto colors. I mentioned William Yarborough coming in, probably going to be their starting goalkeeper now that Sean Johnson has left. He's had stints in Colorado, and I can't remember the other place that I had on the top of my mind. And then those are the two players they brought in right now. And then the other one, Christian, we got to talk about the elephant in the room here with Josh Sargent.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into that, I noticed you didn't talk on Matthias Pereira, which is a left back they brought in.
Oh, thank you.
From Santa Clara. He also brings an attacking mindset from the fullback position. With Walker Zimmerman, I think that this team kind of touched on putting a defense in front of the goalkeeper, since they aren't going to have as strong as a position at the goalkeeper position. And then with William Yarborough, yeah, he brings an experience, but let's not forget they also have Luka Gavron, the Canadian international, who I probably expect to get the start. I think Yarborough. You
think over William Yarborough?
I think Yarborough will bring experience, but I think Gavron will get the start.
Okay. I could definitely see Gavron starting. It's just for me, I've never seen William Yarborough go somewhere and not draw that start. He's not as, he's a consistent goalkeeper, but I could definitely see what you're saying there. And I think you're probably right. Now that you called me off, or you called me out on it, I will definitely admit when I'm wrong, and you're probably right that Gavron is going to start. My notes, I instantly, as I was looking at who they were bringing in and everything as we got ready for this podcast, it's just, you see William Yarborough and you're like, this is a consistent name, been around the league. He started in this league. But if he ends up being your backup goalkeeper, solid backup keeper to have, where if something happened to Gavron.
I think that they're going to see a battle for it, and maybe Yarborough wins it. But I think Yarborough's coming in at 36 years old. And yeah, he brings that experience. But I think that they give Luka Gavron the run before they have to, if they have to go to Yarborough, then they'll have to go to Yarborough.
It'll be interesting to see the decision they end up going with at that goalkeeper position. Now, usually we just talk about who they bring in or who they've officially brought in, but we have to talk about this mega rumor that's been going around the MLS pages of Josh Sargent. Obviously not happy at Norwich City. There was a heated confrontation. Reports are saying that during his talk with the general manager, family got brought up, which went too far for Josh Sargent. He does not want to play for Norwich City anymore from what we're hearing, just rumors. He is dead set on getting to Toronto. He wants to be sold to Toronto, thinks it would help him before the World Cup. Christian, what do you make of this rumor? And then if this move were to go through, what would this mean for Toronto FC?
That's what I was going to go into was the World Cup. I think you're going to see a lot of play. I mean, with World Cup coming this coming year, you're going to see a lot of players making moves where they're going to get better opportunities and be more visible to their international coaches so that they can get time into the World Cup roster. I think it would be a good move for him. I think right now, as I said earlier, DeAndre Kerr, probably the leading striker for this team. He had 4 goals last year. Sorry, that's Remy. He had 4 goals last year. Obviously, bringing in Josh Sargent would immediately be an upgrade in that position. I think that they already have they already have some good players in Georgi Mihailovic and Theo Carbonneau that can kind of play off Josh Sargent. I think that would be a good fit for them.
Well, don't just pass over Georgi Mihailovic. I think this is a player who I am super shocked has turned into this player who bounces around. Like, this is a really good player to have in your midfield. Spent time, I think it was Montreal who he started off with. Chicago. Yes. Thank you. Spent time Chicago. Then he went to Colorado, obviously is where he's coming from, and now finds his way in Toronto. And it just blows my mind. And I think he had a stint in Montreal, if I remember.
He did, but he was at Chicago.
It was Chicago, Montreal, Colorado. And I think this is, I dare say, I think this is one of the better players who, for whatever reason, has been bouncing around the league. I think he gives you consistency in this midfield. Everybody knows what he can do with an attacking foot. And I think this is a good pickup for them. They got him obviously last season towards the end of last season.
I love Georgi Mihailovic. I think he's a very underrated player in the league. He only played 10 games with Toronto last year, and in those 10 games he had 4 goals. So, and I mean, that's pretty good for a team for a guy who moves over mid-season to come in and score, almost a goal every 2 games. I think that's a guy you could see take a step forward, like with the whole offseason in the system.
Well, yeah, I think he's definitely going to come in and help this Toronto FC. The thing is, before we get to my key to success and your X factors for this team, to kind of wrap this up and our discussion on Toronto here is compared to the teams we talked about last week who had blaring issues. Yes, it was another down season for Toronto. Yes, it's never good to miss the playoffs, especially when it's your 5th straight time missing the playoffs. Finished towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference, finished obviously 25th out of 30 teams. It's not great by any means, but this is a team that I don't feel like is miles away. If they were to get Josh Sargent, I think it automatically elevates them to at least definitely a playoff contender, if not contending for home field advantage around that area. I think what I'm saying is this is a team who is only a piece or 2 away from really making some noise. And I stated earlier how I really like the roster that they have. And my key to success for everyone out there, I want to remind you, my key to success is one thing that I think the team needs to do to find some success, not win a championship, but one thing they need to do to find success with the franchise: keep the locker room drama free. That has been a huge thing for Toronto FC the last 2-3 seasons. There's been a lot of turmoil in the locker room. It's been getting out, players refusing to leave. Insigne, like, there's just been, especially with managers as well, there's been a lot of locker room turmoil. I want a stress-free season from you guys. Just make it fun again to play soccer. Keep the locker room drama away. That's my key to success for this team.
Yep. My 3 X factors coming into the season, we kind of touched on Josh Sargent would fall into this. It's the emergence of a true goal scorer. Toronto needs someone to consistently finish chances beyond Carbonneau's modest tally last year. If DeAndre Kerr or a new attacking addition a la Josh Sargent hits form, Toronto's results will improve dramatically. Number 2, we also touched on this, goalkeeper performance and stability. We're talking about replacing a veteran like Sean Johnson. This is absolutely critical. A confidence-inspiring goalkeeper can turn narrow losses into draws or wins. This is where you're thinking maybe Yarbrough comes in because he has that experience. Midfield creativity and defensive balance. Cifuentes and Mihailovic must control the midfield, providing both defense solidity and service to the attackers. If that duo clicks, Toronto can compete in tight matches.
Christian, last comment on Toronto FC. Do you expect much of the same heading into 2026, or do you feel this team has what it takes to take a step forward and potentially end their playoff drought?
I think as it stands in 2026, Toronto can expect much of the same between 9th and 13th. I think if they go and make a splash, then we're talking differently.
Oh, so you think they're going to miss the playoffs again?
I think if as their roster stands right now, I think they're 9th to 13th.
All right, let us know in the comments, guys, whether you're a supporter of Toronto or just a mutual MLS fan. What do you think is the outlook for Toronto FC heading into the 2026 season? Well, we got 4 more teams to talk about here. Let's go ahead and get on to our next team. Yes, it is St. Louis City SC. 32 points, 8 wins, 18 losses, and 8 draws last season. They finished 24th in MLS, 13th in the Eastern Conference. Did I put that right? Western Conference. Oh, my bad, guys. I got to change this on air right here. Hold on a second. See that? At least I caught that. I was like, hold on a second. Right? Did I get that right?
Western,
or am I overthinking this?
13th in the West.
Yeah, 13th in the Western Conference. Well, now my brain is all over the place. So I'm like, yeah, it's West. I don't know why there was a typo. My bad. Anyways, their head coach, they brought in a new head coach, Johan Domont from Columbus. Their top goal scorer last season was João Klaus with 10. He is gone. It has pretty much been confirmed by Tom Bogert. We saw the first report on last week's show. Just yesterday, Tom has confirmed that the deal is done. Galaxy should be announcing it any day. They posted a cryptic video of like a jersey swaying in the locker room, and a lot of people think that is the Klaus announcement, but he's heading over to the Galaxy. Christian, we look at St. Louis City SC. What an incredible inaugural year they had, and then since then it has only been going downhill, this obviously being their worst season. What do you make about St. Louis City SC and how they've kind of managed the off season so far?
As you touched, lost their leading goal scorer in Klaus. He scored 10 goals last year, so you're going to have to replace that. Obviously we don't know what their plan is there quite yet, considering it's not even quote official. Last year they conceded a lot of late goals. They went on a long 10-game winless streak, as you said, the 18 losses. Last year, minus 14 goal differential. I don't know if you touched on that, conceding 58 goals. They saw a lot of injuries. Henry Kessler, Edu Lovin, Roman Berkey, all missing extended time last year. They underperformed in expected goals, so they weren't putting away their chances. And like you touched on, hiring Johan Domont, us FC Cincinnati fans know all about him, as he was two-time interim coach, but was relieved for Ron Jan. So not a great time in the club.
I knew that name sounded familiar.
He was our interim head coach. At the time, he was the youngest coach in MLS. Yeah. He was 29 years old. So
I knew when they announced Johan Domont was going to St. Louis City. I knew him from Columbus as an assistant coach, and I couldn't put my finger on. I was like, where else do I know him from? I know I don't like Columbus wasn't the first stop in me knowing Domont, so I couldn't put my finger on where else I knew him.
He was also an assistant under Greg Vanney.
Yeah. See, this is a guy who's kind of gone around the league, and honestly, we talked about the Tata Martino hire, for Atlanta United. There's a lot of new managers coming in. This is one of them that I think will work. There's something in my gut who I think this was the perfect signing for St. Louis City SC. This is a club who I think needs to find themselves again. As I stated, it was a terrific inaugural season for them, and then they kind of lost their footing after that. I think they need a culture change, and I think Johan will bring a more youthful approach with this team. You've already seen that they are committed to trying some stuff out. I think the moving João Klaus for $2 million is actually a good move for them as well. I've seen a lot of fans on X being like, Galaxy, you can have him for free. Like they were ready to move off of him. His goal scoring has kind of gone down drastically. I think
they were under unexpected goals, which definitely falls on Klaus.
Yeah.
It looks like he was putting away the chances that he had.
I think it's a good move for both sides. I think, again, Klaus needed a fresh start somewhere. I think Galaxy is going to work well for him, with Peck and Paintsill feeding him the ball in. And then I think for St. Louis, they were ready to move on. Obviously, they want to build this team around a few other players, Henry Kessler being one of them, Lowen being one. Sorry, I'm making sure I'm not missing anyone right now. I mean, this is a team they've got. Oh, Hartel is the player I was looking for. That's obviously their big name who they want to, build around, or Marcelo Hartel. So they kind of have their foundation. They just need to find what direction they want to go with this club. They brought in a few people. Daniel Edelman, midfielder, 22 years old. He was acquired from the Red Bulls for 700,000 GAM. You have Rafael Santos, a left back, 27 years old, brought in from the Colorado Rapids. So they're also building within the league so far. No big signing from outside the league at this moment, but this is for me personally a hard team to figure out. I can't tell if they're going to take a leap or if they're going to fall a little bit in the Western Conference. Christian, how are you feeling?
I mean, like you noted on Daniel Edelman coming from the New York Red Bull Academy, that's barely a miss when you hit that academy.
Yeah.
3 goals, 2 assists in 4 years. He's going to be more of a ball-winning midfielder for them. They turned the loan on Conrad Wallum permanent. I have here St. Louis believes that he proved himself last year, and a permanent move will help him kind of settle in with the team. Yeah, it seems like they're kind of here in a turnover, like a turnover year. I have a sour taste in my mouth on Johan Demet just from it was just a bad time with Cincinnati. Obviously, Ron Jans didn't really pan out either with his issues, and then so Demet kind of got thrown in there both times when he right before and right after. But Demet's learned under Wilfred Nancy and Greg Vanney, so I think that he kind of will maybe be more seasoned this time.
That's what I was going to say. He's part of the Wilfred Nancy coaching tree, and a lot of people look at Nancy as being the greatest coach in MLS. I don't know what it says that he went to Celtic and really struggled, but
the difference of being a coach in MLS and a coach in the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah, he needs to come back to the league. And by come back to the league, we need to fire Vanney. I'm talking from a Galaxy fan and bringing Wilfred Nancy. Let's go ahead and get to my key to success for this team. I said implement Damet's style, incorporating a pressing attack that will have the best teams turning the ball over regularly. I think that's what he brings to this team. I mentioned earlier, I'm actually really excited. I might end up eating my words. But this is one of the head coaching hires that I'm most excited to see play out. I think this is a really good match for both parties. And I think what he brings to the team will really help St. Louis as well, because I think this is a team who can press well. And I see this as, they need to improve the back line a little bit. But I just think something in me is telling me that this is a great move to bring in Johan. And I'm excited to see how it plays out in 2026.
Yep. My 3 X factors, I'm going to start off with obviously the elephant in the room, and that's the impact on Klaus's departure. We're kind of looking at who can step up for that main goal threat. Like I said, you're missing out on 10 goals from last year. We're kind of maybe looking at Cedric Teicher. Can he be a 15-goal guy? We don't know. X factor here is City's ceiling rises or falls directly, whether Teicher can replace production, not Klaus's profile. Number 2, like you touched on, Marcel Hartel, can he go from a good player to an offensive engine? Without Klaus, City needs inline breaking passes, late box runs, and secondary scoring. Hartel must become the team's creative heartbeat. I think that if he can create 10-plus assists and chip in 5 to 7 goals, St. Louis City can look to control games. Roman Burki.
We haven't even mentioned Roman Burki yet.
I think your margin of error here is an X factor. This one's pretty blunt. St. Louis will not score enough goals to win shootouts. In a Western Conference full of elite attacks, his shot stopping is the safety net. If Roman Berkey regresses even slightly, you're looking at City dropping 6 to 9 extra points over the season.
Yeah, and you've always been a Roman Berkey fan, coming from his days at Dortmund. Yeah. Let us know in the comments, guys, how you see St. Louis City season playing out in 2026. Christian, the question I'm going to ask you. Same thing I asked about Toronto. Much of the same, or is this a team that's going to take a step forward or a step back? I do see them competing for one of those bottom playoff spots, but I think the range for them is like bottom playoff tier to missing it again. I don't see them taking an overly huge leap unless they bring someone in.
I think as it is right now, I have them as a bottom half team in the West, and I have them finishing 11th to 15th.
So maybe much of the same for St. Louis City heading into this next season. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next team. We are heading to the Eastern Conference. Talk about one of the most consistent teams who also missed out on the playoffs last season. The New England Revolution, 36 points, 9 wins, 16 losses, 9 draws. Caleb Porter is gone. Another guy that Christian's not going to be a huge fan of when coming from FC Cincinnati fandom, but he is gone. Marko Mitrovic has been brought in to see this team going forward. Their top goal scorer, who else could it be? Carlos Gil, scoring 10 goals last season, has always been an Iron Man for them. This is a team, they have always been great defensively, and they didn't struggle with that. Again, the problem was goal scoring. At times over the years, it feels like this team has Carlos Gil, and then, who else do they have? They brought in, Gustavo Bo found success there when he was there. But I just feel like this is a team full of a lot of question marks. And over the past couple of years, this is a team I used to say is an older team. I feel like they have been incorporating some youth. That's just personally how I feel. But, you want something to look forward to for New England. Let me go ahead and say they did announce this offseason. I think it was announced this offseason or last year. New waterfront stadium being worked by the Kraft family, which I'm sure will be absolutely beautiful for New England. Christian, we're talking about a team finished 23rd in MLS as a whole, 13th in the Eastern Conference. What's your outlook for the Revolution heading into 2026?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. I don't like Caleb Porter.
Well, he's gone now.
Marko Mitrovic comes in, only the club's 10th head coach. So they've been pretty steady.
They're going the Pittsburgh Steelers route is what they're doing.
But Mitrovic comes in off a run with the USA U20 World Cup team. I feel like they really failed to distribute a consistent offense last year. You touched on it. New England's kind of been implementing a little bit of youth. I know Noel Buck's no longer there, but just they've been pretty good at getting in some younger guys, which I expect again this year, especially with a guy like Brandon Bye off to Portland.
Yeah, and I mean, they've made some moves. I really like the acquisition of Brooklyn Reigns from Houston, which we're going to talk about Houston this episode as well. But you're getting a really good developmental player right there. Still only 20. He's actually an MLS under 22 player. I think he's 21. I think. Don't quote me on that, but you're getting youth with that. They also went out, brought in Griffin Yo, who is an American winger, 23 years old from KVC Westero. I can't. You know what team I'm talking about? I can't say that team name.
Yeah, he came from Belgium.
Yeah, he came from Belgium. 18 goals, 10 assists. So you're bringing in a proven goal scorer at just 23 years old. They really went the American route this offseason. So I already talked about Brooklyn Reigns, Griffin Yo. They brought in Ethan Kohler, an American defender.
Yo, you might also remember he played a little bit with DC United as well before Belgium. They
brought in Ethan Kohler, 20-year-old American defender, signed from Werder Bremen. So do you see the trend that I'm saying? We're talking about a 21-year-old American, a 23-year-old American, a 20-year-old American. They also are looking for Christian Olivero to do more this season for the Revolution. And then the other big noticeable thing is Matt Turner. He does remain with the club, and he's I assume he's going to be their goal scorer. But they did, Bono just got traded, actually. Forgot. Yeah, he's going back to DC. We actually talked about that before the podcast started. So, yeah, it's going to be Matt Turner in goal. Also, with the World Cup coming up, this is going to be kind of a period for him to stay in shape, assuming he's going to be our starting goalkeeper for the U.S.
Didn't Horvath make him, or he's making a move back to the MLS, or I guess to the MLS?
I think he is coming, because is that the battle that's probably going to happen?
I mean, there will be. I would expect Matt Turner to be in goal, but I'm sure there are other guys trying to throw their name in the pot. Another guy that I'd like to touch on, who I think could have decent expectations for this year, is Leonardo Campana. He really wants to make a showing for Ecuador in the World Cup this year.
Good shout out.
So he wants to kind of take that step this year as well. I have right here, clubs seem to be embracing youth matched with experience, which is usually a good thing to do in MLS.
Talk about Campana coming from Inter Miami. Did he have a full season with the Revolution last year?
I don't know.
Yes. I think he dealt with some injuries. He played 24 games last season, started 20 of them, 7 goals, 1 assist. I mean, he's a solid player to have up front for the club.
Mm.
Some of the people who left, I'm just going to go through them really fast. Tomas Chakadle goes to Minnesota. Olger Escobar to Montreal. Wyatt Ohmsberg has retired. And then they had a loan expire of Ignatius Ganago for FC Nantes as he heads back there. So, I mean, you have relatively the same team. And like I said, this is a team, they have always found pride in their defense. And we know what Carlos Gil is going to do, Christian. I mean, this is a player. He is getting up there in age. I will say that. He's getting older year by year. You can't put so much on his shoulders, but we know he's going to be one of the most consistent. And I think one of the least talked about stars in the league. Like, he has always just been so good for them. It's about finding your attack, ever since you lost Gustavo Bo. And I think Leo Campana could be that person. Got to do a little better than 7 goals, and what we expect from him. But who are you going to go to score goals? I think this is another team. Last week it was all about teams struggling with defense. This is another team that was actually struggling on the other side of the ball with the offense and trying to get goals. And my key to success for them: give Gil some weapons and relieve some of the load thrown on him. It's exactly what I said. Yes, this guy is in my opinion, a star in this league. He shows up every single season, does what he needs to do. But with how he's aging, you can't expect him to do everything anymore. And you need to put some pieces around him to really find success with this club.
Yeah, I mean, my X factor is really start off with that exactly. And more so on the fact of, number one, can Carlos Gil return to that MVP caliber? Like, can he do it again this year? Really, he's the motor of the team. I don't think you could talk about New England without bringing up Carlos Gil. I think if he maintains that fitness and form he's had over the last few years, he's that catalyst for nearly every goal and every opportunity on this team. Number 2 is Griffin Yo's impact. I think he can be a key to unlock defenses and release some pressure off of Gil. Number 3, probably the biggest impactor for New England in 2026 is the new head coach in Marko Mitrovic. It's his first full season. His ability to implement this system and get the best out of existing talent will be crucial.
All right. And to wrap up, Christian, this is a team who has always, I said they pride themselves on their defense. They also have found pride in their consistency. And for me personally, it's weird to see this team be towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I just expect them to be much like the Union. I feel like the Philadelphia Union every single season are competing for that supporter shield. Obviously winning it last season. And I always saw New England as that team that's going to be really, really good in the regular season. So it's weird seeing them take a step back. And I would love to see them get back to competing in the Eastern Conference in 2026.
I don't see them competing for a supporter shield, but I think that they've done enough to kind of relieve some pressure off the heel to at least compete for a playoff spot.
I do think it's interesting. This is a team, like I said, I bring up all those young Americans. They are going the useful route. They're bringing in these players who they hope develop, and I think their whole season's riding on which of these players do develop, do any of them, and finding some people who they can get either a good return if they sell to Europe, or finding good players to be consistent for them for multiple years. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about New England. Next up, we are heading back out west, and I mean the wild, wild west with the Houston Dynamo. Houston Dynamo. Christian, I knew you would love that one.
Why is Houston in the desert?
It's the Dynamo. It gets hot down there. You can't say that was not a sick animation, though. Let me just
I don't understand why they're in the desert.
It's Houston. Talking the wild, wild west. Anyways, they finished last season 22nd in MLS, 12th in the Western Conference, 37 points, 9 wins, 16 losses, 10 draws. Their head coach, Ben Olsen, is back for another year with the Dynamo. You guys will know him as a consistent coach for DC United over the years. But he's back with the Dynamo this season. Their top goal scorer, Ezekiel Ponce, with 10. Christian, I'm just going to throw it straight to you because I think with Houston, we're going to be talking a lot about their roster, right? This is a team, they've made a few signings. Obviously, their big one that we'll get to is Hector Herrera is back after a year away. But obviously he's like 38 years old now.
I think they made bigger signings. Personally, out of the teams we talked about today, this is probably the team I'm most excited about.
They've got a good roster, and I think they can make some noise in the West this year.
I think last year was a regression year. They were coming off back-to-back playoff appearances, missed out. They had a minus 13 goal differential, one of the worst in club history. They only had 5. They were 5-9-3 at home, which was tied for the most home losses in the league, and they allowed 56 goals. So I think what is weird about them is it seems like a lot of defensive issues, and they really spent the money to bolster the attack. But I think the moves that they made is actually really excites me for this team going into this year.
Well, let's just start with the goalkeeper. There's going to be a battle at goalkeeper. I expect Jimmy Marr to start in goal again, but they do have Jonathan Bond, who they brought in. I think those two are immediately going to battle. You got Marr, who's 37 years old. You have Jonathan Bond, who's 32. I mean, you look up and down this roster. Andre Linger, Ezekiel Ponce, Nelson Quiones, Lucas Halter. I mean, Artur. This is Antonio Carlos. This is a good roster. Obviously, last season they brought in Jack McGlynn, young player for Philadelphia Union. It shocked a lot of people that they let him go to Houston. He looks to bring a structure to that midfield. You have Griffin Dorsey, who I've always been a fan of. I mean, this is a team that is looking to contend with a mixture of youth and experience. Their big signing, left winger, Guilherme. I knew I was going to suck at this name. Guilherme, they bring him in, 30-year-old from Santos FC to provide some attack. So they're looking for him to make an immediate impact. Obviously, bringing Hector Herrera in, people are kind of split on whether that was a good move or not, because he brings experience. And when he played for Houston, especially that first year, he really did strengthen that midfield. Like, he was the glue that held everything together. Just making such smart and incredible decisions and passes. And he kind of trailed off before he left the club. I think you started to see his age show. And it's interesting. I don't know if this is one of your X factors, but it would have been a good one. And Christian and I don't talk about his X factors. We don't talk about my key to success. So I might be cutting him off here and revealing one of them without knowing it. But it'll be interesting to see how much we get out of Hector Herrera, because if he is that player when he first got to Houston, I'm very worried about this team in the West. Like a good worried that they can really make some noise and compete for, an upper spot in the playoff rankings. But if his age does show and he's just too old to do it, I think that does hurt them a little bit. But Christian, I just went through pretty much their entire roster, and people are probably out there being like, who doesn't he like on this team? That's a good question, because they've got a really good roster top to bottom.
You did miss one big signing, and I'm not Polish, so I'm going to butcher this name, but Matthijs Bogusz
yes, just signed him from
for LAFC, where he had 15 goals and 7 assists in 2024, absolute star at the time. Went to Cruz Azul and he flopped. Right, he's now coming into Houston on $6 million fee and a 30% sell-on clause. So Cruz Azul is still keeping ties with them on the clause, but $6 million definitely cheaper than what Cruz Azul originally paid to LAFC. I think that right there is probably their biggest signing of this offseason. I think that the last time we saw him in MLS, he kind of blossomed, whether that just be a part of the LAFC system, as we've seen a lot of players play well there, or if he can come in and do the same for Houston.
Yeah, I can't believe I missed him. I even reported that he was signing on our Instagram page. It is like a newer signing. Also, another move they made, bringing in Nick Markonich, a forward, loaned him from CD Castellon. He's 26 years old. So, I think
a really good shout out too. He played in the USL. He had a 28-goal season, winning the Golden Boot before moving over to Spain. So they only have him on a loan, but that's a forward that has proven to be a goal scorer.
Well, Christian, you said it. This is out of the teams we're talking about, this is the team you're most excited for. I think out of every team we've talked about, this is the one that it sounds like we're both convinced can compete in the Western Conference.
No, they went and bought goals. That's for sure. That my only worry with them is I don't feel like they did enough to combat the 56 goals that they allowed last year. That's my only thing with this team.
Well, let's go ahead and get to my key to success for them. It's funny. Exactly what you just said fits this perfectly. I said, bring in some attacking and run this thing back. Literally what I put in my notes. Bring in some attacking players and run it back, because I think they have a really good foundation of a roster here. And I think, look, you can right up until the final day of the season, they needed a lot of help on decision day and the weeks prior to decision day, but they were in the playoff hunt. And this is a team that if they did make the playoffs, maybe could have managed to win in the first round. Like, this was a sneaky team last year. They just missed out. This is not a team that I feel like has to go out like a lot of these others and completely retool and reshape their offense and kind of change the culture of the club, get back to where you were. This is a team I think is ready to win now. Ben Olsen came in last year, spent the year building up that foundation that we keep talking about, and now he's had a full offseason to bring in players. And being a Galaxy fan in the West, I'm very nervous about the Houston Dynamo in 2026.
My 3 X factors are much of the same of what we've already talked about. Number 1 is the new attacking firepower. Last year, the team only scored 41 goals. If the new signings can create extra support for Ezequiel Ponce, we could be looking at a complete flip in this attack. Number 2 is the central defense partnership. While central defense is experienced, it is also old. I see injury concerns with the central defense. Performance from players such as Lucas Holter and possible other signings will dictate the defensive ability. I believe Jonathan Bond is a starting goalkeeper for this team, and I do not think he is good enough for a bad defense. Number 3, you touched on him earlier. I stayed quiet because I knew he's an X factor. That's Jack McGlynn. He's an emerging creative engine. I think this is a potential breakout MLS season. We saw break into the U.S. men's national team last year. I think a breakout season will only submit a dangerous attack and playoff contenders.
So it's a good year for him to perform well for the Dynamo if he wants to try to make the World Cup roster. So, I've never said this about Houston Dynamo because I hate Houston. I can't stand them because as a Galaxy fan, we always seem to play Houston on the final day of the season. And when we need to win, it always seems like they beat us. But I'm very excited to watch this team play. I mean, what's their ceiling, Christian, this season? Like, I would say if we're talking absolute season or, ceiling, everything goes right for them. Third, fourth in the Western Conference is not out of the realm of possibility if everything goes right for this team.
If everything clicks, I could see fourth. Third's a bit of a reach.
That's what I'm saying. What's their absolute
West
season?
Is too good to see them finish top 3. I think a realistic guess is 6th or 7th.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I said. What are we saying? Are we saying their absolute season ceiling, excuse me? Because like if everything goes right, no injuries, nothing, everyone hits on all cylinders, they've got good players. Like they can make some noise. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our final team that we are going to be talking about this episode. They are also out west, the Colorado Rapids. Felt like you think that was the best one? Felt like an action movie almost. Colorado Rapids finished last season 11th in the Western Conference, 21st in MLS. I was actually today, not even lying about this. I was just doing some work at home since we're snowed in, and I turned on the decision day game between the Colorado Rapids and LAFC, and I was watching that earlier, and they were in the hunt. Colorado was very close to making the playoffs. Obviously, what they needed to go right didn't go right for them because they didn't make the postseason at the end of the day. Their head coach, they fired Chris Armas. I've never been a big Chris Armas fan. He's now gone on to the NWSL. He's coaching in that league now. They have brought in Matt Wells, who is a former Tottenham assistant manager. So they expect to get some European culture, some European tactical techniques coming into this club. Their top goal scorer last year, Rafael Navarro, scoring 12 goals. Christian, this is a weird team because personally, since we've been watching the league, I feel like Colorado has been one of those teams who has never been above like a mid-table. They've been anywhere from like mid-table to lower table team. They've never been a team who I've been too scared of, but they've always had a good roster on paper. Like I feel like they just haven't been able to bring everything together to find a successful season. Last year, they struggled on defense once again, particularly in stopping teams on the fast break. That was something that they really struggled at last season. So it'll be interesting to see. They're bringing back most of the defenders that they had last year, but they also Michael Edwards is the one on the back line. He's gone off to Atlanta United.
They still have Ian Murphy?
Let me check. I have their roster pulled up. Go ahead, Christian, while I look. I'm seeing their back line, Keegan Rosenberry, Sam Vines, Reggie Cannon, and Rob Holding.
Okay. Ian Murphy came from Cincinnati. I really did like him. But the thing with this team, I think that they really struggle with.
Oh, they do. I see right here. Sorry. Ian Murphy. Yes.
Yeah. They conceded a lot of really early chances last year. Like you said, they really struggle with defensive compactness. They were winless when conceding first last season, which is kind of a crazy stat. So it seems like this is a team that, especially last year, they needed to jump out early, and when they didn't, they became lost. So the fact that that was the case, it's kind of interesting in the fact that they were still in the running.
Yeah, right up until the last day. I mean, this season, if we look about what they need to change going into 2026, like I said, this is a club that just makes me scratch my head, and I don't know what to expect with them. I think they made the right move, firing Chris Armas, bringing Matt Wells in, obviously coaching for Tottenham. I think that's going to bring in good experience, and he's going to be able to kind of solidify the culture at this club. I think the one positive that they had last year was developing young talent, which they kind of focused on elevating some of their academy guys. Darren Yappy, they expect a big season from him this year, playing at that winger position. And then also Jackson Travis, the left back for them, they have big expectations for as well. They gave them minutes last year, and both those players showed signs that they could be really bright spots for this team and for this franchise. They still have good MLS talent. I mean, we talk about Zach Steffen. That's a good goalkeeper to have. He's not as good as he once was, obviously, but I still think it's you can't go wrong having him in goal. Cole Bassett remains. Paxton Aronson. I love the addition of Dante Seeley this offseason. Obviously, coming over from Montreal, I think they robbed Montreal. He should be able to help with their attack. You're basically switching out Kevin Cabral for Dante Seeley. I think that is a great move. You expect, and I say you expect, that the club has been vocal about they need more from their attacking players, and I think that starts with Navarro. He has shown at moments that he can be a dominant center forward in this league, but then you go out and you only scored 12 goals when you are the guy at the number 9 position. I think they expect a little bit more from his caliber of player. And then the other moves they've made, they brought in Donovan Phillip, center forward, 21 years old, on a 2-year deal. He's taking up an international spot. And then obviously Jordy Mihailovic is out the door to Toronto. So who are you going to have in that midfield to kind of solidify? We know how important the midfield position is. Who are you going to have as that captain in the midfield to kind of solidify things?
I think I got it with Matt. So Matt Wells is going to bring tactical direction to the club. They also brought in the Nigerian and Hamza Ohederan. He's a 22-year-old signed from RC Lens. I think this is going to be a perfect fit for what they need because he's going to bring a defensive mindset to the midfield. I think that last year they got beat on the attack, on the forefront last year. So back on the attack they got beat. So Ohederan will be able to get back and be a ball-winning midfielder for them. Obviously, we're not looking at a captain, but we're looking at more of an engine player.
And I wanted to add in, Christian, the big player that I'm watching for this year, and I do think he can compete for. Does he still qualify for Young Player of the Year? I think he does. I'm talking about Darren Yappy. I mentioned it a little bit. I don't want to go too much into it again. But I think he's going to be a player who could. I'm looking at his age. He's 21 years old. I think to win Young Player of the Year, you have to be like under 22, I believe. So I think this is a player who could do it this season because I think they're ready to give him the reins to really go out there and shine for the Rapids. He's one of my players that I'm most excited to watch play this season, actually. I'm excited to see that if he can go out there and score a bunch of goals for them or at least provide a lot of goal contributions with assists. This is a team that needs to solidify that back line. And that was a big reason of their struggles last season. But another thing about this team, they've got 2 open DP slots. So I think you have some room to maneuver here. Kevin Cabral apparently was taking up one, which I did not know, unless my research was wrong. That is just crazy to me. And then Jordy Mihailovic was taking up one. You've sent them both away. Your sole DP on the roster right now is Rafael Navarro. Go out there and get a DP, and I'll get to that with my key to success. I'll hold off on that. The other player I want to talk about, Paxton Aronson. What can he provide for this team? We know what his brother can do. They brought him in last season, and we're very excited about bringing him in. I talked about who are you going to find in that midfield now that you sent Jordy Mihailovic away. Paxton Aronson could be that person. He doesn't bring the same consistency as his brother, but I think there is there's good enough raw talent there to be a good player in this league. I think he just needs to find his footing a little bit more, but I think this was a great pickup for the Rapids when they brought him in, and I think they look to expand his role heading into this season, and I think that Matt Wells will target him as one of his target players to go to run this offense out on the field. Oh, I didn't know if you had anything else to say, so I laid it up for you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Paxton Aronson probably will become the creative outlet. I think even with Georgie, though, they kind of struggled with creative outlet, which is kind of what we touched on with Georgie with Toronto is what we were most excited for, and then Colorado kind of lacked that last year. So I guess maybe we could find out if Navarro is going to be that stud finisher, or do they need to go find a new number 9?
Let's go ahead and switch it up, Christian, in this episode. Let's go ahead and do your 3 X factors first.
Okay, let's start off. So my 3 X factors, we're going to start off with defensive compactness. I touched on this earlier, especially away from home. The Rapids' biggest 2025 issue wasn't talent, it was spacing. Too easy to play through their midfield, which I believe Hamzat will change, and which left their center backs exposed in transition. Number 2, I have Zach Steffen's redemption arc. This is quietly huge for Colorado. MLS teams with top 5 goalkeeping always steal points. If Steffen regains the confidence and shot stopping consistency, this is going to gain Colorado 5 to 8 points alone. Number 3, I was quiet when you were talking about him. Darren Yappe's big step forward. Colorado doesn't have elite wingers. Goals must come from 9. Yappe's probably going to play more on the wing this year. If he can support Navarro, Colorado can become a playoff lock.
See, I'm always undercutting you with your. I'm sorry. Maybe we need to start sharing it beforehand.
No, always. I mean, it's not that. I mean, here's the thing. That makes me feel better about what I'm saying if we're both agreeing.
Yeah, I think I can't say it enough. I think Darren Yappe is a young player to watch in this league. And I think if you're Matt Wells in Colorado, you have to just tell this young kid, hey, you're one of our go-tos. Like one of our go-to players, like you need, have the confidence to go out there and do what you do best. My key to success for this team, you got 2 open DP slots. I've been seeing a lot of people, MLS moves on X. I'll give them a shout out. They've been going off with their tweets saying there are still teams. You have Miami doing what Miami's doing with their roster, and you still have teams. We're less than a month from the season beginning who still have open DP slots. And I understand why. MLS Moves has been saying how there's no punishment in this league if you finish at the bottom of the league. So, some teams are like, we're going to, we don't really need to try. We can just throw away the first part of the season. And with this league, it does have a forgiving, if you go out and struggle before the summer and then you get someone in the summer, you have time to come back and make the playoffs. It's forgiving if you struggle at first. So there are some teams that they're not in a rush. They're like, look, we'll just go out, we'll suck, we'll get our player during the summer. And I think a lot of players are doing that, or a lot of teams are doing the strategy, especially this year with the World Cup, because as you stated earlier in this podcast, there's going to be players available who are looking to stay fit, who maybe wouldn't have came to MLS, but now they are considering it because the World Cup being in America. And then, you get those reps in, especially if your contract expires with the European club. So I think there are some teams just waiting. We'll do what we can first part of the season. We'll focus on winning the second half. I think Colorado is one of those teams, but my key to success for them, fill your DP slots. And particularly, I don't want to do your guys' job for you, but I think you should fill your DP slots with one defender. I think you need a solid DP defender to really solidify that back line. And then I think you need one winger to go on the go on the other side of Yappe. I think you have Navarro, you have Yappe, and then who is that third guy? Yes, you might find him within your roster that you currently have, but I think you should go out and sign a DP winger. I think that would really help the club out overall. Christian, with Colorado, I don't see them making the postseason this year, especially with how loaded the West is. Maybe you have a different opinion because they were so close last season. One or two things go a different way, and they are in the postseason. So what's your outlook for Colorado?
I don't know that I would, just to touch on what you said, I don't know if I would use a DP on the defensive side. I would think I would go with a creative midfielder and a winger if I were them. But I think Colorado. And also, I wanted to touch on the whole DP thing in the summer. I think that because we obviously have the big issue going on of MLS moving into the European time slot, I think that is going to be very important as of right now. A lot of those European players are mid-season form and want to finish off their year with the team they're at. And then the move to the MLS wouldn't happen until summer. So leaving your DP spots open kind of leaves some flexibility for the summer. Whereas if you fill those spots before, there could be some big names that come into the pot and you weren't expecting. With Colorado, I'd probably expect more of the same this year. I feel like I keep saying this with these teams back here, but I don't necessarily see a lot of these teams getting better. And again, it could be these teams waiting for the European time slot switch. I really don't know. But it seems like a lot of teams are really focusing on youth at the moment.
Yeah, getting that, solidifying the youth for potentially when we do switch over to that calendar spot. But yeah, that does it. Talked about 5 more teams in about an hour. Look at that, Christian. We stayed like right on time with this. Absolutely killed it today. So that's our review for Toronto, St. Louis, New England, Houston, and Colorado. Next episode, we are heading out west for a lot of the teams we're going to be talking about. We will break down San Jose Earthquakes, Real Salt Lake, the New York Red Bulls, the Portland Timbers, and FC Dallas. So the only team we're going to talk about in the East during the next episode are the Red Bulls. We're going to start getting to some teams who made the playoffs but did not find success in the postseason and what they can do to take that next step forward. Christian, any MLS news you want to talk about before we log off here?
You kind of put me on the spot there because I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, I just thought you would talk about Kevin Dinke.
I mean, it's a rumor at the moment, being a Cincinnati fan, we've struggled to keep strikers for a long period of time, but if Napoli are going to come in and give us $30 million, it's kind of hard to turn down.
Yeah, you can't turn it down. Like if they called me and they were like, we'll give you, even if it's the low end, even if it's like, we'll give you 27 mil for Kevin Dinke. I'm sorry, what? Like I would say yes on the spot.
We'll go find another striker for half that, and we'll let Tom Barlow play till the summer. Like at this point, like
the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and Christian doesn't know anything, so I'm kind of putting wait, that's mean. That sounded mean. I'm saying he doesn't know anything I'm going to bring up, so I'm kind of putting him on the spot. I do apologize about that. But we have to talk about Reguilon's. Did I say his name right? Yeah. Reguilon's injury for Inter Miami. The rumor is he could be out. They haven't made a formal announcement. What did you say?
I knew he got injured.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fair. He got injured in their preseason game, which they got smacked in. they got destroyed. But we got to talk about. They haven't came out and officially said what happened to him. They're just saying he could be out anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few months. This is obviously a player. If you're Inter Miami, you're hoping it's a couple of weeks because this would be devastating to lose one of your big signings. But at the same time, with how that roster's built, they might not miss him that much. That's
another thing. Let me ask you this. As Miami, I understand it's a preseason game and you're playing a midseason form team, but we're talking about a team I think they were from Peru, and they absolutely smacked Cincinnati around the field. Is this something, Miami around the field? Is this something that Miami should be worried about, or is this something they just kind of sweep under the rug and go, it's preseason?
I think it's preseason. I didn't look too much into it at all. I don't know if Messi even played. I figured he did, but I figured most of the starters were out by halftime or they only played one half. I'm not too concerned about it. You're just getting reps in, kicking the ball around. I think this is still a team that's going to be favorite to win MLS Cup. Whenever we get to talk about them, we will talk about their insane roster that they have right now. I'll just be interested to see how they do in the CONCACAF Champions League, and that Champions Cup, and then that's the other thing that I want to go ahead and mention here. We will probably have an episode before next Tuesday as we have to talk about the next 5 teams. So we keep up our releasing 1 team per day schedule. But next Tuesday begins the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We only have one MLS team playing. So next Tuesday, you'll have, I don't even know these team names. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find them. Tigres is in action. Club America is in action against Olympia. And then the only MLS team you have in action next Tuesday, I will sure be watching the game. It's on FS2. It's San Diego FC hosting Puma. So, Pumas? Did I say it wrong?
It's Pumas, but yeah.
They're hosting the soccer or the shoe brand Puma. That's actually San Diego FC is the only team that is in action, only MLS team in action next week. And then the following week, you have their second game against Pumas. And then I'm looking here. I believe Cincinnati plays this. No, you don't have another MLS team play until Tuesday, February 17th, when LAFC plays, Nashville plays, and then the following day, the 18th, you have Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Vancouver. So
that'll be another thing that'll be nice with the Champions Cup is right now these MLS teams that's their first competitive game since the last season. Whereas you get into that new calendar time slot, these teams will be in mid-season form by the time the Champions Cup comes around. I think that these Liga MX teams will be caught off guard with the mid-season form of MLS teams versus playing them when they're the preseason form.
It'll still be weird, though, because the CONCACAF Cup is in February. They're taking January off. So, they might be in form, but they'll have an entire month off before they play again. And they would return for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think it's insane that San Diego plays next Tuesday, but then another MLS team doesn't play for 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to use your team, FC Cincinnati, as an example here. They play, I don't know the name of this team, but they have to travel at their games at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 3 days before they have to be back home in Cincinnati for the kickoff of the season.
The same thing happened last year. Well, last year, I think we played a home game. Then we had the MLS home opener. And then a couple days later, we were off to I can't remember exactly where it was, but I want to say we played in Honduras, but I can't remember. We played a team. So I think that these MLS teams are getting used to it. Last year and this year will be different. Cincinnati is now certified themselves as a top flight team, so they better be ready.
Same with the Galaxy. Galaxy play 8 p.m. They have to go on the road. That's Thursday, February 19th. They play 3 days later at home against New York City FC. So, man, it's coming. Soccer is right around next Tuesday. We start with the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I know I will be watching. Christian will probably be tuning in as well. But other than that, that does it for our stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you enjoyed the conversation and the preview that we had today, make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at MLS Full-Time. That's on TikTok, X, and Instagram as we continue to grow this show. It would really help us as well if you share this to your MLS-loving friends or your groups. Help us get the name of our podcast out there. We really, really do appreciate it. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and then we will continue to post some incredible reels for you guys. I just posted my top 5 favorite MLS goals all time. I'm going to try to get Christian to do his. We haven't talked about that yet, but I'm going to try to get him to do his at some point. But we've got some great content coming out for you guys. This is our first full season covering the league. We're very excited about it. So we will catch you guys next time.